Morning heat rises slowly across the Australian bush, lifting the scent of eucalyptus oil and warming the mosaic of bark, stones, and leaf litter that covers the ground like a restless tapestry. Before birds fully break the silence, another patrol is already awake. Individual figures, long-legged and deliberate, moving with a precision that looks almost mechanical against the shifting shadows. These are bull ants, among the most visually acute insects on the continent, and every step they take is guided by a pair of eyes that are far more sophisticated than most people expect from something barely the length of a fingertip. The camera lingers close to the ground. A single worker pauses, antennae tasting the air, massive mandibles flexing like spring-loaded traps. Nothing stirs within her field of view, but the scene already carries tension because bull ants do not wander aimlessly, they patrol. The bush floor may look quiet, but to a bull ant it is a dynamic grid of vibrations, heat signatures, and odor trails layered on top of each other. Their compound eyes, unusually large for ants, give them a range of detection that allows them to zero in on motion at distances where most ant species would still be functionally blind. This visual advantage shapes everything about their behavior. A falling twig, a shifting boot sole, even the flicker of a beetle wing several body lengths away. Each is enough to snap the ant's attention toward the disturbance. The viewer sees the world through her perspective, a trembling blur as magnified facets track movement, then a rapid forward charge. Bull ants do not need pheromone lines to hunt or defend, they can simply watch. These patrols are extensions of a sophisticated defensive system rooted in the physical structure of their nests. Unlike leafcutter colonies with deep chambers or army ant bivouacs hidden beneath interlocked bodies, bull ant nests are often surprisingly exposed. Shallow entrances between roots, small crater-like openings set into sandy soil, or hollows inside rotting logs. This exposure demands vigilance. The colony relies on a perimeter of workers that cycles through shifts throughout the day. Each ant knows the boundaries by experience rather than orders. If she strays too far, she is no longer a guard, but a wandering hunter, and the shift becomes a search for arthropods that can feed the larvae inside. This dual purpose, nest defense and solitary predation, produces a creature that must respond aggressively to anything that interrupts the rhythm of the landscape. When something finally does, the attack begins with a choreography that evolution perfected long before humans understood venom chemistry. The ant lunges forward, mandibles snapping shut around skin, cloth, or the leg of another insect. The grip is not gentle. Bull ants possess some of the strongest bite forces relative to size among ants, using thick muscles anchored deep in the head capsule. But the jaws are only phase one. Once anchored, the body rotates with a startling flexibility. The abdomen swings forward and down, almost like a scorpion curling beneath itself, revealing a stinger that is proportionally enormous. A hypodermic needle built from hardened cuticle, designed not for a single strike, but for rapid-fire penetration. The ant uses the leverage of its jaws to pivot repeatedly, driving the stinger into the target again and again, each strike pumping venom into the wound. This venom is not subtle. The immediate sensation is a burning spark, as if a live wire grazed the skin. Then the burn spreads outward in steady waves. The pain is deep rather than surface level, because the venom interacts with nerves in a way that amplifies the body's natural inflammatory response. Sodium channels fire irregularly, and the local tissue swells in throbbing pulses that grow more intense with time. Hours can pass before the sensation fades, and in some people the reaction escalates into full-body symptoms: dizziness, nausea, spreading hives, even dangerous anaphylaxis. That level of response may sound extreme for such a small creature, but bull ant venom evolved for versatility. It subdues prey, deters predators, and punishes anything that threatens the colony's offspring. The camera shifts to the entrance of a nest embedded in a log. Workers come and go along separate lanes, some carrying prey fragments, others returning empty but alert. A shadow crosses the nest mouth. Maybe a lizard, maybe a careless human leaning down to steady themselves. The reaction is instant. One ant emerges with mandibles open, then another, then several more, each scanning upward with unblinking precision. Bull ants do not swarm blindly, they pursue with intention. If the intruder moves, the ants follow, sometimes for distances that surprise even researchers accustomed to their boldness. Chasing is a natural extension of their defensive mindset. Anything that disturbs the nest is marked not chemically, but visually, and if it remains in sight, the ants will keep pursuing until the perceived threat is neutralized or far beyond the colony's boundaries. This pursuit behavior underlines a fundamental difference between bull ants and many of their tropical relatives. Where army ants rely on overwhelming numbers and fire ants rely on chemical recruitment, bull ants rely on individual performance. Each worker is built like a soldier, fast, agile, and capable of surviving alone. Their long legs keep their bodies lifted above hot ground surfaces, a form of thermoregulation that allows them to remain active during hours when other insects retreat into shade. Their vision guides their route not only across the forest floor, but vertically. Many individuals forage on low shrubs, bark surfaces, and fallen branches, scanning for caterpillars, spiders, and even small vertebrate carrion. Every patrol paints a map in real time, constantly updated and stored through a combination of visual memory and chemical cues that help the ant navigate back to the nest. Opportunistic predators take note of this mobility. Small skinks, birds, and mantises know the risk of approaching too closely, especially during the warmer months when colonies produce brood that must be protected. Yet, within the insect community, bull ants occupy a paradoxical role. They are feared for their sting, but they are also essential participants in seed dispersal and soil aeration. Many Australian plants rely on ants, including bull ants, to carry fallen seeds into shallow chambers, where they remain protected from fire and predation. In this way, the same jaws that deliver painful bites also serve as tools for ecological engineering. The forest's future trees may sprout from chambers once built for ant larvae. But none of this complexity matters when a human leans against a tree without looking. The scene plays out often enough for it to feel universal. A hand reaches for stability, brushing bark that seems harmless. Only when the pressure settles does the skin detect movement. A tiny shift, followed by another. The camera zooms in. A bull ant, flattened momentarily under the unexpected weight, now emerges with its defensive instincts fully active. She lifts her head, mandibles spreading, body angling forward. The sting lands before the person even registers danger. The hand jerks back, knocking loose bark and dislodging another worker that was climbing silently beneath the first. The encounter transforms from accidental contact to a defensive chase, a sequence that hikers across Australia know well enough to treat with a mix of caution and grudging respect. From a documentary perspective, what makes bull ants so compelling is not merely their ability to hurt, though the pain is legendary. It is their architectural elegance, long limbs, precise vision, powerful jaws, and a stinger engineered for repeated use. Their behavior reveals an evolutionary strategy where individuality matters as much as collective organization. Unlike swarming species whose danger emerges from numbers, a single bull ant can deliver an encounter that stays with a person for hours. This trait shapes human behavior as much as it shapes ecological interactions. People learn quickly that in bull ant country, leaning casually against a trunk or kneeling in leaf litter turns the environment itself into a gauntlet. Every touch point becomes a potential bull ant pain test. Yet beneath the pain and patrols lies a more subtle truth. Bull ants are survivors of an ancient lineage, predatory in a world where most ants turn toward farming, herding aphids and chemical communication networks. They remain hunters, relying on instincts older than the forests they patrol. Their sensitivity to vibration, their visual acuity, and their rapid movements reflect a lineage that once roamed megafauna-dominated landscapes where speed and stinging power meant survival. In modern ecosystems, these traits make them keystone enforcers, regulating arthropod populations, shaping seed dispersal routes, and influencing the micro-distribution of creatures that share their habitat. As the light fades and temperatures drop, patrols slow. Workers retreat to their chambers, storing the day's observations somewhere beyond human comprehension. The forest quiets again, but the viewer now understands that when morning returns, the patrol resumes with the same precision and vigilance. The walking needles are always ready, not as mindless aggressors, but as guardians and hunters woven into the biological fabric of Australia's ecosystems. Every sting tells a story of survival strategy, evolutionary refinement, and a world that rewards awareness. In a place where danger hides in plain sight, the bull ant teaches a simple rule: look before you touch, because the bush has eyes of its own. The sea looks harmless from shore, clear turquoise water sliding over sandbars, sunlight laying bright ribbons across the surface, and the gentle sway of a tide that feels too slow, too warm, too welcoming to hide anything dangerous. Yet, as the camera moves past the glittering shallows and into the heat-fogged air rising off a tropical beach, a different reality begins to form. Northern Australia's coastline carries a reputation built not on waves or currents, but on a creature nearly invisible, a drifting geometry of glassy tissue whose presence is felt long before it is seen. Somewhere beneath the refracted shimmer, tentacles hang like faint strands of silk, waiting for a moment of accidental contact. This is the box jellyfish, the animal responsible for a kind of pain that survivors compare to being wrapped in fire. The camera slips underwater, revealing the world through the jellyfish's near-translucent body. It does not hunt through speed or cunning, it hunts through stillness. Its cube-shaped bell pulses with a slow, deliberate rhythm that seems almost peaceful, yet each contraction positions its trailing tentacles like a perimeter of tripwires. Within those tentacles lie millions of specialized cells, iodocytes, each housing a microscopic harpoon coiled under explosive pressure. A tentacle brushing human skin feels soft at first contact, but only for a fraction of a second. Then the system ignites. What happens next is almost too fast for the eye. The nematocysts fire in unison, thousands of tiny darts punching into the skin at speeds comparable to the snap of triggered elastic. Each harpoon injects a dose of venom engineered to target 3 systems simultaneously: nerves, heart, and skin. It's not a mild irritant. It's a biochemical assault shaped by evolution to collapse small fish in seconds and stop crustaceans mid-swim. But when those harpoons strike human flesh, they announce their presence with sensations that defy expectation. Survivors describe it as if someone dragged hot, electrified wire across their legs, chest, or arms. A pain that spikes instantly into a level the body is not prepared to interpret. The nervous system floods with signals so intense that some victims lose the ability to speak or stand, collapsing into the surf before understanding what touched them. The welts appear almost immediately, twisting in raised red tracks that follow the path of each tentacle strand. The skin blisters, stiffens, and lifts as though branded with molten rope. The venom penetrates deeper with every heartbeat. Muscles seize. Breathing becomes a battle fought between panic and paralysis. What's remarkable is not that the venom is lethal, though a full tentacle wrap can be fatal in minutes, but that the pain alone can steal a person's ability to move. Several survivors recount the same experience: total body rigidity, an overwhelming need to escape the water, and an inability to command their own limbs. The ocean becomes a silent adversary, pulling them downward as their vision narrows and the burn spreads like fire under the skin. But not every encounter writes itself into medical journals or emergency calls. Many swimmers only brush past a loose tentacle fragment. These milder contacts produce stings that feel like intense, sizzling lashes, painful but not incapacitating. The difference between a brush and a wrap is measured in fractions of a second, yet that moment determines whether a person walks to shore or is carried from it. Even detached tentacles retain firing capability. The harpoons activate on contact without the jellyfish's control. This simple hair-trigger defense strategy explains why lifeguards treat stinger season with a seriousness that borders on obsession. The ocean's surface might look unchanged, but a single drifting individual can turn a calm afternoon into a medical emergency. Every summer, as waters warm, box jellyfish migrate closer to coastal shallows. Their presence coincides with a complex dance of factors: temperature thresholds that cue reproduction, currents that push juveniles toward mangrove-lined bays, and prey movements that concentrate small fish and crustaceans in the very areas where humans also prefer to swim. The jellyfish are not coming for people, they are drawn by ecological necessity, but their tentacles do not discriminate between a baitfish and a human calf. Once contact is made, the biology unfolds the same way. The camera follows a jellyfish gliding near the shadow of a stingray. Its 4 clusters of eyes, yes, eyes complete with lenses and retinas, detect objects and light gradients with more sophistication than most people associate with something gelatinous. These sensory structures allow box jellyfish to orient toward mangroves and avoid obstacles, giving them a level of environmental awareness rare among sea cnidarians. Yet, even with this capacity, they drift more than they navigate, and their tentacles remain extended in a hunting posture that reflects millions of years of evolutionary refinement. The goal is not combat, it is efficiency. When the tentacles strike fish, the reaction is nearly instantaneous. Small prey go rigid as the venom locks sodium channels in the nerves open, throwing signaling pathways into chaotic overdrive. Hearts stop, muscles fail, and the fish drifts lifeless as the jellyfish draws it inward. Watching these kills is critical to understanding why human stings are so catastrophic. The venom was not designed to scale gently with body size. It was engineered for overwhelming shutdown, and in humans, that shutdown manifests through relentless pain, systemic stress, and sometimes cardiac arrest. The shoreline scene shifts again. A lifeguard watches the water with a practiced vigilance. Vinegar bottles line their station. The reason is simple. Vinegar neutralizes unfired nematocysts by preventing them from discharging, stopping the sting from getting exponentially worse as victims thrash or as adhered tentacles shift across more skin. What vinegar cannot do is remove the venom already delivered. Hot water helps denature some venom proteins, easing pain, but it is first contact that decides whether the venom load is survivable. That is why stinger season protocols feel almost militaristic. Nets placed across beaches, warnings broadcast before swimmers enter, and strict closures when jellyfish concentrations spike. The danger isn't theatrical, it's biological. The documentary now leans into survivor accounts, not through dialogue, but through physical reenactment. A swimmer is struck mid-thigh, and the camera locks onto the skin as linear welts erupt. The breath catches. The spine arches. The legs buckle. Pain radiates in pulses synchronized with the heartbeat, each wave stronger than the last. The body responds as if electrocuted, muscles tightening involuntarily, lungs struggling to maintain rhythm, vision narrowing. The weight of the water around them becomes a cage, not a refuge. Even when they break the surface, the burning persists with a ferocity that overwhelms rational thought. Paramedics later explain that some victims enter shock purely from the sensory overload, their cardiovascular systems teetering under the combined stress of venom and panic. Yet the box jellyfish is not an aggressor in the human sense. Its world revolves around tides, thermoclines, and the seasonal abundance of prey. It rises and falls with lunar cycles, drifts through estuaries carrying reproductive cells into sheltered nurseries, and depends on complex relationships with mangrove ecosystems that shield juveniles from predators. These jellyfish are woven into the coastal food web as both hunters and prey, consumed by turtles that seem almost immune to their venom, and threatened by environmental changes that alter current patterns and water temperatures. Their biology is extraordinary, but it is not malicious. This juxtaposition, the creature's fragility and its capacity for extreme harm, creates a narrative tension that defines stinger season. A body made of water and proteins, delicate enough to tear on rough sand, can deliver one of the most excruciating experiences known in nature. The mismatch between form and consequence forces a reconsideration of what danger looks like in the ocean. It is not always the toothy silhouettes patrolling reefs or the large predators that dominate wildlife lore. Sometimes danger drifts in silence, transparent and slow, leaving devastation only when touched. As the tide retreats, the jellyfish follow invisible cues back into deeper water. The beach cools, the sunlight softens, and the stinger nets remain in place like quiet reminders of the season's invisible threat. The viewer now understands why lifeguards never relax during these months, why vinegar bottles are treated like medical supplies, and why a single encounter can leave scars, both physical and sensory, that last a lifetime. The water returns to looking peaceful, but the lesson lingers. In northern Australia, the ocean wears a hidden edge. Brush it lightly, and you may leave with nothing more than a burning memory. Meet it fully, wrapped in tentacles you never saw coming, and you will understand why people describe the box jellyfish not as an animal, but as fire wrapped around your skin. Dawn breaks slowly across the Indian Ocean, turning the water's surface into a shifting sheet of hammered silver. Beneath that reflective calm, where the sunlight fractures into shimmering patterns over coral heads and sand channels, something moves with an elegance that seems almost choreographed. A long ribbon-like body glides between fish schools, each coil propelled by flattened paddle-shaped scales along the tail. Sea snakes, among the most venomous reptiles on Earth, do not swim with urgency. They drift, pivot, and weave with the confidence of animals perfectly shaped for this liquid world. Their presence rarely alarms divers or fishermen at first glance. Their motions look peaceful, even gentle. But this calm masks the biological reality inside their bodies, a venom chemistry so potent that one bite can begin a slow, devastating collapse from the inside out. The camera slips closer. A banded sea snake rises toward the surface, breaking through with barely a ripple to gulp air before descending again, lungs stretching the full length of its body like buoyant fuel tanks. In these warm waters, oxygen trade-offs dictate everything: hunting, traveling, even avoiding predators. Unlike land snakes, which rely on lungfuls of air to power their entire metabolism, sea snakes have evolved an ability to absorb oxygen directly through skin, supplementing their dives with small but crucial exchanges. This adaptation grants them patience underwater. They do not rush, they patrol. The snake glides along the hull of a fishing boat anchored above a reef. Fishermen cast lines, their silhouettes blurred through the surface light. One reaches down without looking, trying to free a snagged lure from a tangle of rope. The snake, startled by the sudden disturbance, snaps defensively, not in aggression, not in hunger, but in reflex. The bite barely registers, no sharp pain, no intense sting, just a faint pressure, like a thorn catching skin. The fisherman shakes his hand and continues working, unaware that biological machinery has already begun a silent countdown inside his bloodstream. This lack of immediate pain is one of the most deceptive elements of sea snake envenomation. Unlike vipers or some terrestrial elapids whose bites produce instant agony, sea snake venom is built for efficiency rather than theatrics. Their prey, fish, rely on speed to survive, exploding away at the first sign of threat. A venom that shocks or burns would offer no advantage. Instead, sea snakes evolved a biochemical cocktail that shuts down prey through paralysis and muscle breakdown, leaving no time for escape. The lack of discomfort in humans is collateral, a dangerous illusion. Hours pass. The fisherman eats, talks, works, unaware of the molecular unraveling occurring beneath his skin. The venom's primary agents, myotoxins and neurotoxins, begin dismantling the integrity of muscle fibers, breaking them into fragments that spill into the bloodstream. It doesn't happen all at once. It begins with subtle heaviness in the shoulders, a sense of fatigue that feels like routine overexertion. But then deeper soreness blooms, radiating outward as if invisible hands are kneading the muscles with crushing force. The fisherman stretches to relieve the ache, only to find the motion stiff and weak. By evening, the pain has intensified into something he can no longer ignore. A whole-body exhaustion that feels as if every muscle has been individually bruised, torn, or starved of oxygen. This process is rhabdomyolysis, the catastrophic breakdown of muscle tissue. As fibers dissolve, they release myoglobin, a dark pigment that overwhelms the kidneys. The urine turns tea-colored, then nearly black, a sign that the kidneys are fighting to filter out the debris flooding the bloodstream. Left untreated, this internal storm can lead to kidney failure. It is not the dramatic collapse people imagine when they think of venom. It is a slow, grinding deterioration that steals strength until standing becomes a burden and breathing becomes a negotiation. Many survivors recount the same chilling pattern. The absence of pain in the beginning lulled them into ignoring the bite. They finished dives, sailed home, or continued working, believing nothing serious had happened. Then, hours later, they found themselves unable to lift equipment, unable to walk without trembling, or unable to raise their arms above shoulder height. Their muscles felt swollen, electric, and foreign, as if their bodies no longer belonged to them. Some describe the sensation as being crushed from the inside, others as every muscle torn at once. The venom's progression turns the body rigid, then limp, cycling through phases of deep soreness and weakness that can last days even with proper care. The camera returns underwater, following a sea snake as it navigates through coral spires and sandy gullies. These snakes are not reckless animals. They rarely waste bites. Their fangs are small, adapted for gripping slippery fish rather than piercing thick-skinned predators. Many strikes are dry bites, warnings without venom. Envenomation is reserved for true threats or genuine hunting attempts, yet the boundary between threat and accident is thin. A diver reaching blindly under a rock, a fisherman pulling a net crowded with writhing shapes, a swimmer touching something they assumed was drifting seaweed, all become moments where a defensive reflex turns into a medical emergency. Despite their reputation, sea snakes are important predators in reef and coastal ecosystems. They regulate fish populations, shape prey distributions, and themselves become prey for sharks, sea eagles, and occasionally large predatory fish. Their ecological role depends heavily on thermoregulation. Unlike terrestrial snakes basking on warm stones, sea snakes rely on ambient water temperatures to stabilize their metabolism. Too cold and their movements slow. Too hot and their oxygen demands outpace their ability to absorb it. This constant balancing act influences their foraging routes, their surface intervals, and their vulnerability to changing climates. Rising sea temperatures can alter prey availability, migration patterns, and even venom potency. A reminder that venom systems are not static, but fluid, shaped by environment as much as genetics. Back on the fishing boat, the night deepens. Stars scatter across a moonless sky, and the fisherman who shrugged off the bite now struggles to lift his gear. His hands tremble, his legs feel wrong, heavy, unresponsive, as though he's wading through dense mud. Someone notices his pale face and the dark color of his urine. Fear sharpens the moment. Only now does he understand the seriousness of what happened, and only now does the race to reach medical care begin. In a hospital setting, anti-venom becomes the critical line between reversible damage and lasting disability. The earlier it is administered, the more effectively it halts the progression of muscle breakdown and neurotoxic paralysis. But anti-venom alone cannot reverse tissue destruction already underway. It simply prevents further venom binding. The kidneys still must cope with the metabolic wreckage, flushing out broken muscle proteins before they choke filtration pathways. Treatment requires fluids, monitoring, and sometimes dialysis. Even non-fatal bites can leave survivors with lingering weakness, deep muscle soreness, and fatigue that stretches into days or weeks. The body must rebuild what the venom dissolved. Yet the snake's venom is not malicious. It is precise. Its purpose is to immobilize prey quickly, reducing the danger of flailing fish that could injure the snake or escape into the reef. This efficiency explains the contrast between harmless initial sensation and catastrophic delayed symptoms. The venom does not advertise its presence because the snake's survival depends on subtlety, not intimidation. The tragedy arises only when human activity intersects with a chemical weapon designed for a different target. The camera retreats now to a wide, serene ocean shot. The snake surfaces briefly, taking another breath before descending into the reef labyrinth. Its silhouette fades into wavering blue light, leaving behind a complicated truth. These animals are both fragile and formidable. Their bodies tear easily on coral. Their lives depend on narrow thermal and oxygen windows. They flee more often than they fight. Yet inside them flows one of nature's most powerful biochemical tools, a venom capable of dismantling the human muscular system with silent precision. Every fisherman, diver, and coastal traveler in the Indo-Pacific learns the same lesson sooner or later. A bite that feels like nothing can become a crisis hours later. A body that seemed strong can suddenly feel as if its muscles are melting from within. And survival depends not on bravado, but on awareness. The quick recognition of symptoms and the urgency to seek help before the kidneys falter and the body buckles under the weight of its own failing tissue. By the time daylight returns, the reef looks unchanged. Schools of fusiliers flash past like liquid silver, turtles rise for air, and the sea snake continues its quiet patrol, shaped by the same evolutionary forces that crafted its venom and refined its existence into one long, fluid negotiation with the ocean. The danger it represents is not born from aggression, but from biology. A biology that turns a painless nip into a lesson about the fragility of muscles, the importance of early treatment, and the hidden power that moves through the world's warm, dazzling tropical seas. Shallow coastal water carries a comfort that few environments can match. Light filters down in soft waves, turning sand into shifting gold and casting swaying silhouettes of distant fish across the sea floor. Everything looks harmless. The tide whispers more than it roars. Tourists wade forward with easy steps, feet sinking into the cool sand as small ripples curl around their ankles. It is a place that invites trust. And that trust is why stingrays are so effective at teaching hard lessons. Not because they hunt people, but because they are so perfectly camouflaged that humans intrude on them without realizing it. The camera slides beneath the surface and the illusion shatters. Just centimeters below the sand lies a broad, diamond-shaped body, edges dusted with silt, eyes protruding just enough to monitor the world above. The stingray is not hiding in fear, it is waiting in confidence. Rays bury themselves using a series of rhythmic pulses, fluttering their pectoral fins to push sand upward and over their backs. This creates a subtle trap, a nearly invisible outline, soft to the eye, yet backed by a powerful defensive mechanism coiled along the tail. Many species possess one or more serrated barbs made of dentine-like material, dense, mineralized, and shaped like a backward-facing saw. Each barb is sheathed in venomous tissue that stays potent even after the spine breaks. To the ray, this is not a sword meant for offense. It is a last-ditch survival tool designed for the moment when stealth fails. The camera shifts to a human foot, stepping forward. The sand puffs upward in a slow explosion, clouding the water with suspended grains. The stingray reacts instantly. It does not growl or snap or coil like other defensive animals. Instead, the tail whips upward in a powerful arc, driven by muscles that contract faster than the eye can track. The barb strikes with a force that feels less like a puncture and more like a punch from below. A sudden, violent intrusion that tears into soft tissue with a jagged edge. The wound is not a clean line. It is a shredded tunnel filled with fragments of the spine's serrations, bits of sheath tissue, and sand forced inward by the impact. Mechanical damage alone is enough to drop a person into the surf. The serrations rip backward through skin and muscle as the victim instinctively pulls away, widening the wound and leaving pieces of the barb embedded deep within the tissues. But then, the chemical side of the injury begins. The venom coating the spine contains compounds that trigger intense pain, swelling, and tissue irritation. Survivors often describe the sensation as a deep, throbbing burn that radiates outward from the wound, growing more severe with every passing minute. Hot water helps denature some of the venom components, but it does nothing to remove the fragments lodged inside, the true source of the long-term misery that follows. The stingray itself is gone by now, leaving a cloud of disturbed sand in its wake. Rays flee the moment they strike. They do not linger or return to attack again. Their evolution shaped them to deal with predators like sharks, not soft-skinned humans who wander carelessly through their hiding spots. The real battle happens long after the sting, in the body of the person who stepped where they shouldn't have. For most coastal injuries, the event ends with the initial pain. With stingrays, the opposite is true. The barbed spine is designed to break on impact, partly to ensure the rays escape, and partly because the serrations tear deeply when the barb snaps. Those fragments act like splinters made of bone and stone, creating pockets where bacteria flourish. Salt water introduces microbes into the wound the moment it opens. Sand carries even more. Together they create an environment ripe for infection. Days after the sting, victims often find themselves dealing with swelling, heat, pus, and a pain that refuses to fade even as the skin around the injury closes. What seemed like a simple puncture becomes a festering, inflamed crater that throbs with every step. The documentary perspective now pulls back, showing the broader ecological landscape in which stingrays operate. They are not passive animals, despite their peaceful appearance. Rays spend much of the day hunting small fish, crustaceans and mollusks buried within the sand. They use electroreception, the ability to detect tiny electrical fields produced by living organisms, to pinpoint prey hidden beneath several centimeters of substrate. Their bodies act as flexible digging tools, lifting sand as they capture worms and shellfish. These foraging behaviors create small pits in the seafloor, reshaping habitats and stirring nutrients into the water column. Many fish species follow rays to feed on what they uncover. In this way, stingrays become ecosystem engineers, shifting energy between layers of the food web. This ecological role is what makes stingray encounters so common. Wherever rich sand flats exist, rays gather to feed. Whenever humans enter those same shallow zones, mistakes happen. The famous severe sting incidents, the ones that travel through news broadcasts and emergency medical literature, usually involve rays struck unintentionally or cornered in deep water. A sting to the limb is agonizing but rarely life-threatening. A sting to the chest or abdomen, however, can be catastrophic. The mechanics of the barb do not change. The human anatomy does. The same serrated weapon that tears leg muscle becomes a spear capable of puncturing organs, arteries, and lungs. These rare but devastating cases illustrate the true power behind the tail strike, reminding viewers that the stingray's defense isn't merely a sharp object. It is a biomechanical spear that can penetrate bone. The camera returns to the typical scenario most beachgoers face. A person limping toward shore, clutching their leg as blood clouds around them. Immediate pain radiates up the limb, but the worst agony arrives slowly, pulsing with heat and pressure. The nervous system interprets the injury as both a laceration and a venomous assault, producing a blend of sensations that feel raw, electric, and deep. Hot water immersion provides temporary relief, but the wound continues to bleed, swell, and ache. Removing fragments is difficult, even for trained professionals. Many break apart when grasped. Others hide beneath layers of inflamed tissue. Days later, the person may still be limping, still fighting infection, still experiencing stabbing pain whenever they put weight on the foot. Stingray injuries have a reputation not for the intensity of their initial strike, but for the persistence of their aftermath. The documentary widens again, showing the stingray gliding across the sand hours after the encounter. Rays do not store grudges. They resume their ecological routines, breathing through spiracles positioned above their eyes to avoid inhaling sand while buried. Their tails rest low, ready but not raised. They are not predators in the traditional sense, nor are they malicious. They are animals caught between camouflage and survival, pressured by predators from above and by human activity from every direction. This perspective highlights the larger truth. Stingray injuries occur not because the ocean is cruel, but because people often forget they are entering an active ecosystem. In many coastal regions, stingray shuffle techniques, sliding feet rather than stepping, are taught to push rays out of the way before stepping on them. Most rays will flee long before contact is made. Awareness, not fear, is the defense. Yet the stingray's weapon remains one of the most effective natural deterrents ever evolved. Its design ensures injury, even through neoprene or wetsuit fabric. The barb's backward-facing serrations resist removal, tearing more tissue with every attempt to extract them. The venom amplifies the pain, complicates healing, and creates an environment where infection thrives. It is a spear that continues to hurt long after the ray disappears into the murk. As the chapter closes, the sun dips low over the beach, washing the water in warm red and gold. The shallows look peaceful again, but the viewer now understands the truth hidden beneath that gentle facade. Rays lie buried in the sand, not as threats, but as reminders. Reminders that ecosystems are not empty playgrounds, and that every step into the ocean should be taken with respect. A stingray's defense is ancient, efficient, and brutally effective, turning a single misstep into a wound that burns, throbs, festers, and lingers. It is a spear meant for predators, but it is humans who most often learn its lesson. And that lesson is simple. In the quiet shallows, danger does not always announce itself. Sometimes it sleeps beneath your next step, waiting only to defend itself with a weapon that keeps hurting long after the moment passes. At first light, the Australian outback feels almost serene. Cool air glides over red earth that still holds the night's chill, carrying the scent of eucalyptus and dust across a landscape so open that sound seems to travel further than light. Birds begin their dawn calls, kangaroos graze in the dim wash of early sun. Then, faintly, the camera catches movement along a ridgeline, a silhouette slipping between clumps of spinifex with fluid certainty. It is a dingo, neither dog nor wolf, but an evolutionary midpoint sharpened by thousands of years in this harsh environment. Its stride is long, its ears forward, its tail relaxed. In these early hours, dingoes patrol territory, scout for food, and gauge disturbances. They do not raise suspicion unless you know what to look for, the way the shoulders roll with each step, the confident precision in the gait, the gaze that locks onto shapes long before anything else notices the watcher. The dingo pauses, its nose traces the wind, gathering information carried from kilometers away. The musk of kangaroos, the drifting warmth of livestock, the faint mineral echo of humans. Their olfactory world is enormous, a mosaic of directional signals guiding them toward opportunity or warning them away from danger. Dingoes occupy an ecological niche where social flexibility is key. They hunt alone, in pairs, or in coordinated groups, depending on what the landscape offers. This versatility, paired with their strong visual acuity and efficient locomotion, makes them formidable predators even though they lack the sheer mass of large carnivores. Yet their most underestimated weapon is hidden in plain sight. Their bite. Dingo skulls are built for leverage. The jaw hinge sits high, allowing the masseter muscles to drive the jaws closed with surprising force. Though dingoes lack the oversized crushing power of hyenas or mastiffs, their bite combines pressure with surgical anatomy. Their canines are long and sharp, designed to puncture quickly and deeply. Their carnassials, the shearing teeth toward the back of the jaw, act like serrated blades, slicing through tissue with scissor-like efficiency. When a dingo commits to a defensive bite or a predatory grip, the mechanics work together, penetration followed by tearing, powered by muscles that contract with explosive precision. The camera now focuses on livestock grazing at the edges of a property. Sheep move slowly across the field, unaware of the figure observing them from the tree line. Dingoes, unlike dogs, often test boundaries with quiet patience. They wait for vulnerability. A lame animal, a straggling lamb, a distracted ewe. When they strike, the bite lands fast. A puncture to the limb or flank that pierces through wool and skin, sometimes reaching deep enough to tear muscle fibers. Farmers who find wounded sheep often describe the injuries as long, ragged gashes rather than neat punctures, because the dingo's teeth grip, shear, and pull in one motion. Even a single bite can disable a limb, leaving the animal unable to flee. The predator doesn't need to tackle a large target. It only has to compromise one key muscle group. This same mechanics makes human encounters dangerous, despite being rare. Dingoes avoid people when possible, but fed or habituated individuals lose their natural wariness and begin associating humans with easy food. That shift in behavior transforms curiosity into risk. A startled or provoked dingo can deliver a defensive bite that feels like a pair of knives driven into the skin. The immediate sensation is sharp, a shocking puncture radiating upward through the nerves. But the pain doesn't stop when the teeth withdraw. Moments later, the tearing component reveals itself. Deep ache, swelling and bleeding that spreads through the tissues as if the wound were pulling itself open from within. Torn muscle fibers scream under the pressure of inflammation. Tendons, if nicked or partially severed, create stabbing pain with every movement. The documentary lens follows the biology inside the wound. The punctures disrupt small blood vessels, but the tearing motion creates irregular edges that refuse to close neatly, making the injury prone to infection. Dingoes carry oral bacteria just as domestic dogs do, but the environment adds another layer of threat. Dust, soil, and plant matter contaminate the wound instantly, amplifying the risk of secondary pain as inflammation deepens. Days after such a bite, victims may feel their limb throbbing with internal pressure or see redness spreading outward in branching patterns, classic signs of infection that require medical intervention. Torn tendons can take weeks to heal. Lacerated muscle fibers re-knit slowly and painfully. Even non-fatal attacks leave long recoveries measured not just in stitches, but in restored function. Back in the wild, the dingo's relationship with pain is different. Their prey struggles, kicks, and sometimes retaliates, so the dingo has adapted not only to deliver damage, but to avoid it. Watch closely as the dingo in the frame circles a kangaroo carcass left from the night before. It approaches from downwind, ears flicking at the faint buzz of flies. Dingoes consume their kills in calculated layers, starting at soft points, the abdomen, the inner thigh, using their shearing teeth to strip muscle in clean ribbons. Their bite has to be efficient because every feeding session is a negotiation with the wider ecosystem. Wedge-tailed eagles may circle overhead, Monitor lizards may arrive to scavenge, and other dingoes may challenge ownership of the carcass. In such an environment, a predator that wastes energy fails quickly. This need for efficiency shaped not just their teeth, but their social dynamics. Dingoes form loose packs based on breeding pairs and their offspring, but individuals may split off to hunt solo, especially when targeting small prey. Their territories are vast, often overlapping with farms, campsites, and tourist areas. In popular locations like Kagari, Fraser Island, dingoes appear almost tame to visitors, walking boldly down beaches or lingering near picnic areas. Their dog-like appearance invites dangerous assumptions. People approach, feed, or attempt to interact with them as if they were domesticated animals. This pattern is the foundation of most conflict. A fed dingo loses fear, but not its instincts. A startled dingo reacts with the same precision bite used against threats in the wild. Humans misinterpret the posture, the lowered head, the fixed stare, the stiffened shoulders, until the distance closes too far. The camera pulls tight on a dingo's face as it emits a low vocalization. Not a bark, but a soft, rising howl used to communicate across distances. Dingoes rarely bark unless alarmed. Their vocal behavior reflects their evolutionary path, separate from domestic dogs. Their communication relies heavily on body language, scent marking, and subtle vocal cues. To a trained observer, the signs of discomfort or aggression are obvious. To an untrained tourist, they are invisible. The chapter shifts to the medical side of dingo bites. Emergency workers in remote areas often deal with injuries where the initial pain is sharp and overwhelming. Victims describe feeling the teeth clamp down with enough force to break skin instantly. The punctures bleed freely, but the deeper pain manifests minutes later. A spreading heaviness, a dull ache as swelling begins, and the unsettling feeling of tissue pulling or grinding when the limb moves. If tendons are involved, particularly in hands or feet, the tearing pain becomes intense, sometimes forcing the limb into unnatural positions. Without prompt cleaning and antibiotics, bacteria provoke further inflammation and abscess formation. Even minor bites can leave stiffness and shooting pain along tendon sheaths for weeks. Yet dingoes are not villains. They are apex predators in a landscape that depends on them. Where dingo populations thrive, kangaroo numbers remain regulated, small herbivores are kept in check, and the ecological balance stabilizes. When dingoes are removed or persecuted, cascading effects ripple across the environment. Overgrazing increases, vegetation suffers, erosion accelerates, and even bird populations decline. Dingoes maintain order not through brute force, but through ecological pressure, a quiet, omnipresent influence shaped over millennia. The final scene returns to the outback ridge. The same dingo from dawn now stands silhouetted against a sky streaked with warm orange light. Its fur ripples gently in the wind. It is alert, but calm, fully aware of the viewer's presence, yet unthreatened. This is the version of dingoes that most people never see, an animal carrying the dignity of a wild predator, governed by instinct and intelligence, not malice. The danger comes not from the animal itself, but from misinterpretation, the human tendency to project domestic familiarity onto a creature that is anything but tame. Its bite is not a warning nudge. It is a tool honed for hunting and defense. A single snap can puncture deeply, shred muscle, and disable limbs. The pain is sharp, immediate, and followed by swelling that transforms the wound into a throbbing ache. Infection and tendon injury extend the agony long after the moment has passed. Those who forget this often learn the lesson too late. As the dingo descends the ridge and melts back into the bush, The landscape seems unchanged. But the viewer understands now that beneath the dog-like exterior lies a predator shaped by Australia's unforgiving rhythms, an animal worthy of respect, distance, and acknowledgement of its power. It is not the bark of a domestic companion that defines the dingo. It is the bite, crushing, tearing, and unforgettable. The Australian wet season begins not with a storm, but with a mood shift. Humidity thickens the air until each breath feels warm and heavy, like inhaling through damp cloth. Water pools in the low places, billabongs, ditches, flooded lawns, creating new worlds where tadpoles wriggle and dragonflies patrol the surface like aerial guardians. But beneath those shimmering reflections lies the quiet foundation of a yearly invasion. Larvae hang from the waterline, siphoning air, feeding on microscopic algae, and biding their time. Soon they will transform into the smallest tormentor in the entire episode, a creature so light that its landing is almost imperceptible, yet so persistent that it can steal sleep, energy, and health with nothing more than a pinprick. The mosquito. The camera glides just above a stagnant pool illuminated by sunset. Tiny silhouettes drift upward like dust motes, catching the fading light as they rise. Their wings beat hundreds of times per second, a high-pitched shimmer audible only when one drifts too close to the ear. At this scale, the world vibrates with opportunity. Warm bodies emit plumes of carbon dioxide, skin leaks faint chemical signatures, and humidity holds scent trails in suspension. Female mosquitoes, driven by the biological imperative to nourish their developing eggs, navigate through these chemical gradients with astonishing sophistication. They detect CO2 from meters away, follow heat signatures across still air, and lock onto exposed skin with navigational precision that rivals far larger predators. A mosquito lands. The moment is anticlimactic. No stab of pain, no dramatic sting. Instead, the proboscis, a seemingly simple needle-like structure, begins a complex mechanical process. The needle is really a bundle of microblades. Some slice into the skin with near-surgical finesse. Others probe for blood vessels with tactile sensitivity, and one narrow tube delivers saliva rich with anticoagulants. This saliva is the real beginning of the misery. The mosquito injects it to prevent blood clotting, ensuring a smooth meal. But the human immune system interprets these foreign proteins as a threat. Histamines flood the site. Blood vessels dilate. Within minutes, the tiny wound blooms into a raised bump that pulses with mild heat and irritation. What starts as a faint tickle becomes an itch that commands attention. Itching is not caused by the bite itself, but by the body fighting the mosquito's chemical tricks. A localized war between immune cells and alien proteins. The longer the mosquito feeds, the more saliva enters the skin. And because Australian mosquitoes are particularly well adapted to warm, nutrient-rich environments, their saliva blends include multiple enzymes optimized for keeping blood flowing freely. The result is a swelling that rises like a miniature volcano, red at the edges, soft at the center, begging to be scratched. But scratching is where the stingray's mechanical pain and the sea snake's chemical damage find their tiny scale equivalent. Digging fingernails into the bite tears fragile skin, increases inflammation, and opens pathways for bacteria. Soon, the itch evolves into low-grade pain, a dull ache accompanied by persistent irritation. One bite becomes 2, then 10, then 50. In the heart of the wet season, stepping outside after dusk can feel like entering a field of invisible needles. The buzzing around the ears becomes a warning in its own right, a reminder that darkness favors creatures that know how to feed without being felt. The camera widens over a floodplain, wallabies bound through tall grass heavy with moisture. Jabirus pick through shallows for fish, insects and crustaceans. Here, the mosquito is not merely a pest, but a central node of the wet season ecosystem. Fish feed on larvae, frogs rely on dense mosquito populations to power breeding cycles, and dragonflies rise in glittering swarms to hunt the adults. Yet this ecological richness also carries a shadow. Mosquitoes transfer pathogens between animals and humans with equal indifference. Every bite is a gamble. Ross River virus, one of the most widespread mosquito-borne diseases in Australia, turns the mild itch of a bite into a chronic illness that can linger for months. The virus doesn't cause immediate symptoms. Instead, it incubates quietly before triggering fever, joint pain and fatigue that feels disproportionate to such a small wound. Infected individuals often describe waking to stiff fingers, swollen wrists, aching knees, the feeling of an invisible weight pressing on the joints. Fatigue settles in like a fog, making daily tasks feel heavier. Even after the fever breaks, the joint discomfort may persist for weeks. For a bite that barely stung in the moment, the aftermath seems wildly unfair. Other viruses carried by mosquitoes, Barmer forest virus, Murray Valley encephalitis, transform that tiny nuisance into a significant threat, though outbreaks remain infrequent. Still, the possibility underscores the evolutionary efficiency of the mosquito's feeding strategy. It is not the bite that harms, it is the vehicle the bite provides. Mosquitoes are biological syringes operating at the scale of milligrams, and they use human and animal bodies interchangeably as temporary waypoints in their reproductive cycles. The documentary shifts into a nighttime sequence. Campsites glow with lantern light, while cicadas drone in the background. A family tries to sleep inside a tent, but the camera focuses on a tiny shadow clinging to the mesh wall. Its silhouette, thin-legged and long-bodied, pulses gently as it tries to probe through the fabric. A mosquito's persistence is not aggression, it is survival. Warmth draws them in, CO2 lights the path, and the thin barrier frustrates instincts honed over millions of years. The quiet buzz keeps the family awake. It is the sound of anticipation, of itch yet to come, of a creature that specializes in stealing comfort rather than delivering dramatic injury. Contrast this with the chapter's earlier giants: stingrays with spears, dingoes with shearing jaws, sea snakes dismantling muscle from within. Each delivers pain as an event, sudden, overwhelming, unforgettable. But mosquitoes deliver pain as a condition. Their bites accumulate across hours, days and seasons, turning restful nights into battles with bedsheets and fingernails. Children scratch until scabs form. Adults endure clusters of bites behind knees, along elbows, across ankles, places where clothing rubs and irritation magnifies. The cumulative effect is sleeplessness, distraction, and the sense of being slowly worn down. It is chronic discomfort rather than acute trauma, but it shapes behavior just as powerfully. People shut doors quickly, they light coils, they time their outdoor activities around sunrise and sunset, when mosquito activity peaks. This slow erosion of comfort is the mosquito's signature. It is pain not as a strike, but as a whisper repeated endlessly. The ecosystem breathes them out every wet season, filling the air with creatures that weigh almost nothing, yet influence everything from livestock productivity to human health strategies. Even tourism adapts to their rhythms. In northern regions, guides warn visitors to cover their skin, avoid swampy areas at dusk, and respect the small insects that define the season as much as the storms do. The documentary returns now to a final aerial shot over northern Australia. Floodplains gleam under moonlight. Mangroves cast lace-like shadows across tidal creeks. Mosquito clouds shimmer faintly where light reflects off wings. This landscape has shaped them into specialists of persistence. They do not chase, pounce, sting, or roar. They do not break bones or puncture organs. Instead, they tap lightly into the bloodstream, triggering the body to fight itself in an attempt to neutralize their presence. Their impact is felt not in a single moment of agony, but in the long, restless nights that follow. As the chapter closes the entire episode, the contrast becomes clear. The outback's dangers range from crushing bites, venomous stings, and fatal strikes to the smallest attacker of all, an insect whose bite barely registers, but whose aftermath lingers far longer than anyone expects. Big predators dominate headlines and fear, but mosquitoes dominate experience. They do not deliver the dramatic pain of a stingray or the tearing shock of a dingo bite. Instead, they specialize in chronic, low-level misery that stretches across weeks of the wet season. Each bite is small. Together, they reshape lives. In the end, the lesson is universal. Pain in Australia doesn't always arrive with fangs or venom. Sometimes it arrives on wings so small you never see them land, and only realize what happened when you can no longer sleep.